Once upon a time, there was a woman named Elena who lived trapped in an invisible prison. There were no bars or locks, but every morning she woke up chained to the same exhausting routine, comparing herself to everyone else. Every day began the same way. Her alarm would sound at 6 in the morning, and before even touching the floor with her feet, she already had her phone in her hand. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, an endless parade of perfect lives that weren't hers. Women with sculpted bodies, brilliant careers, enviable relationships, exotic travels, and there she was, in her small apartment, feeling smaller and smaller. Why doesn't my life look like this? She would ask herself while scrolling. What am I doing wrong? Elena worked as a freelance graphic designer. She had talent, her clients appreciated her, but she never saw her own value. There was always someone better, someone with more followers, someone with more important projects, someone thinner, someone more successful, someone more everything. Her friends would tell her, "Elena, you're amazing. Look at everything you've accomplished." But their words bounced off like rain against an umbrella. They couldn't penetrate the armor of insecurity that she herself had built, brick by brick, comparison after comparison. One Tuesday afternoon, while waiting for her coffee at her favorite cafe, she saw a woman sitting near the window. She was beautiful in an effortless way, as if she didn't have to try. Her laugh filled the space, her hair shone in the sunlight, and she seemed to radiate that confidence Elena desperately longed for. It must be wonderful to be her, Elena thought, feeling that familiar weight in her chest, that dull ache that had become so common she almost considered it normal. That night, Elena sat in front of her computer, ready to work on an important project, but she couldn't concentrate. Her mind was a whirlwind of self-criticism. You're not good enough. You never will be. Look at everyone else. They're so far ahead. You're stuck. She closed the laptop in frustration and looked at herself in the bathroom mirror. She didn't like what she saw, not because there was anything objectively wrong, but because she had spent so much time looking at herself through other people's eyes that she had forgotten how to see herself with her own. Thursday of that same week, Elena received an invitation. Her old college classmate, Sophia, was organizing a reunion. 10 years since graduation. Elena felt a knot in her stomach. I can't go, she thought immediately. Everyone will be there with their perfect lives, talking about promotions and marriages and houses. And what am I going to say? That I'm still single, working from home in pajamas? But something in her, a small spark of curiosity, or perhaps masochism, made her accept the invitation. The night of the reunion arrived too quickly. Elena changed outfits 5 times. Nothing looked good. Everything highlighted her flaws. Finally, she settled on a simple black dress and left her apartment with her heart racing. The place was full of familiar faces that time had transformed, and just as she expected, the conversations revolved around achievements. Patricia had opened her own law firm, Marco traveled the world as a consultant, Andrea had just had her second child and seemed to have everything under control. Elena smiled and nodded, feeling herself shrink with each success story. She was about to make up an excuse to leave early when she saw someone she didn't expect. Professor Morales, her old design mentor. "Elena!" The professor hugged her with genuine affection. "How are you? Tell me everything." And then something strange happened. Elena began to speak honestly. She didn't try to embellish her life or fake a happiness she didn't feel. She told her about her freelance work, about her doubts, about how lost she felt. Professor Morales listened attentively, and when Elena finished, she said something that would resonate with her for days. "Elena, do you know what your biggest problem was in college? You were never bad at design. In fact, you were brilliant. Your problem was that you spent so much time looking at what others were doing that you never developed your own voice, and I see you still do it." The words cut like a scalpel. but also like a key opening a rusted lock. Everyone in this room is struggling with something, the professor continued. Patricia is exhausted and barely sees her family. Marco is alone in hotels every week and misses having a home. Andrea is medicated for anxiety because the perfection she projects is destroying her inside. No one has the perfect life you imagine, but you're so busy comparing yourself that you can't see your own light. Elena felt tears burn her eyes. And how do I stop? I've lived like this for so long that I don't know how to be any other way. Start by deciding you want to change, the professor said gently. That's the first step. The day you decide your worth doesn't depend on how you compare yourself to others, that day you'll truly begin to live. That night, Elena couldn't sleep. Professor Morales's words spun in her mind like a broken record. Your own light, your own voice, your own worth. At 3 a.m, she turned on her bedroom light and pulled an old notebook from her closet. On the first page, she wrote, "The day I stopped comparing myself to others." She began to write without filter. All the times she had felt inferior, all the occasions when she had minimized her achievements, all the hours lost scrolling on social media, feeding the beast of insecurity. She wrote about that time she turned down an opportunity to exhibit her work because she was not as good as the other artists, about when she canceled a date because she felt she wasn't attractive enough, about the creative projects she never started because someone else had already done it better. Tears stained the pages, but she kept writing, and as she wrote, something began to change. She could see the pattern with chilling clarity. It wasn't that she was insufficient, it was that she had convinced herself she was. The next day, Elena made a radical decision. She uninstalled Instagram from her phone, then Facebook, then TikTok. It felt like jumping off a cliff, but also like removing a weight from her shoulders. 30 days, she promised herself. 30 days without digital comparisons. The first few days were strangely difficult. Her hand automatically reached for her phone every time she had a free moment. Boredom felt uncomfortable, almost painful. She realized how much of her time she had been filling with other people's lives. But she also began to notice other things. Morning coffee tasted better when she didn't drink it while scrolling. The sky looked more beautiful when she actually looked at it. And slowly, very slowly, she began to hear her own thoughts without the constant noise of comparisons. In the second week, she decided to do something more. She pulled out all her old design projects, those she had hidden because they were not good enough. She looked at them with new eyes, without the filter of merciless self-criticism. And she saw talent. She saw creativity. She saw someone with a unique voice that had been suffocating for years. She started a new project, something just for herself, without thinking about what other designers were doing. She designed for the pure pleasure of creating, and for the first time in years, she enjoyed doing it. In the third week of her experiment, Elena was at the supermarket when she saw the woman from the cafe again, that woman she had envied for her apparent beauty and confidence. This time, the woman was arguing on the phone, with tears in her eyes, dropping products in her cart without really looking at them. Elena felt something different, not envy, empathy. She realized something profound. She had been so consumed with seeing only the shiny surfaces of other people's lives that she had never considered that everyone carries their own invisible battles. That perfect woman was clearly suffering. Patricia, the successful lawyer, was exhausted. Everyone was struggling with something. Comparison was not only useless, it was fundamentally false. She was comparing her chaotic interior with the carefully curated exteriors of others. That revelation was liberating. Elena began to see people differently. Instead of automatically measuring how she compared to them, she started to feel genuine curiosity. Instead of threats to her self-esteem, she began to see complex individuals with their own stories. But the biggest change was happening inside her. One afternoon, while working on a design, she caught herself thinking, "This is good. I like what I created." Not, "This is good considering it's me," or "This is good but surely someone else could do it better," just, "This is good." It was such a simple thought, so small, but it felt revolutionary. She started making a list every night, 3 things she liked about herself that day. At first, it was torturous. I finished a project on time, I was kind to a stranger, my hair looked good. They felt trivial, forced. But over time, the list became easier and more honest. Today, I designed something that made me feel proud. Today, I stood up for myself when a client was disrespectful. Today, I liked my reflection in the mirror. Elena also started setting boundaries. When her friends began complaining and comparing themselves to celebrities or influencers, she gently changed the subject. When her family made comments about her weight or marital status, she kindly told them those topics were off limits. It wasn't easy. Some people didn't understand, but Elena was learning something crucial. Protecting her mental peace was more important than pleasing everyone. At the end of day 30, Elena reinstalled a social media app. But this time, something had fundamentally changed. When she saw pictures of seemingly perfect lives, she felt nothing. Well, not exactly nothing. She felt slight curiosity, sometimes admiration, occasionally joy for them, but not that stabbing pain of inadequacy, not that compulsive need to measure herself. She had found something within herself that social media couldn't give or take away, her own sense of worth. 6 months later, Elena was sitting in that same cafe where it all began. But this time, she wasn't watching other women with envy. She was meeting with a potential client who had seen her work online and wanted to hire her for a major project. "I love your style," the client said. "It's unique. It doesn't look like anything I've seen." Elena smiled. She had heard compliments before, but she had always dismissed or minimized them. This time, she simply said, "Thank you. I've worked hard to find my voice." After the meeting, she walked through the park. It was a beautiful spring day. She sat on a bench and watched people pass by. A runner in excellent shape, an older man reading a book, a young couple laughing together, a mother chasing a small child. And Elena didn't compare herself to any of them. She didn't think, "I should run more like her," or "I wish I had a relationship like them," or "My life should look different." She just saw them for what they were, people living their own unique lives, as complex and challenging as her own. She realized that the day she stopped comparing herself to others wasn't one single dramatic day. It was an accumulation of small decisions. The day she uninstalled the apps, the day she wrote in her journal, the day she looked in the mirror and decided to be gentle with herself. The day she chose to create something just because she wanted to, not because she needed to prove herself. Elena still had difficult days, moments when the old voice of self-criticism tried to return, situations that made her feel insecure. But now she had tools, she had practice, and above all, she had a different relationship with herself. She had learned that her worth was not something she needed to earn or prove. It was not something that could be lost based on how she compared to others. Her worth was inherent, unbreakable, simply because she existed. She opened her phone and posted something for the first time in months. Not a perfect picture with a perfect filter, just an image of her coffee cup on the cafe table with an honest reflection. "I spent years believing that my life needed to look like someone else's to be valuable. Today, I celebrate that my life looks exactly like what it is. Mine, imperfect, in progress, unique, and more than enough." The likes and comments started coming in, but Elena put her phone aside. She didn't need the validation. It was nice, but it was no longer necessary. She got up from the bench and walked home, feeling light, free. Not because her life had changed dramatically on the outside, but because everything had changed on the inside. Elena had learned the most important lesson of her life. The only person you need to compare yourself to is who you were yesterday, and the only approval that truly matters is your own. The day she stopped comparing herself to others was the day she finally began to live. If you're watching this today, maybe you see yourself reflected in Elena. Maybe you too live trapped in the endless cycle of comparisons. Maybe you feel like you're never enough, no matter how much you achieve. I want you to know something. Your story doesn't need to look like anyone else's. Your success isn't measured by how much you resemble others. Your worth doesn't diminish because someone else shines. The day you decide to stop comparing yourself is the day you reclaim your power. It's the day you stop living someone else's life in your mind and begin to truly live your own. You are enough, exactly as you are, in this moment, with your imperfections, your struggles, your unique path. Stop looking to the sides. Look forward. Look inward. There you will find everything you've always been searching for.